I'm Mohammad
conference will now
Mehanazuddin
be
Rupom.
recorded.
I will be the resource person for this webinar, which is on creating awesome reports and presentation with pivot tables and conditional formatting. So I am from Bangladesh, and briefly, my profile is I'm the country HR manager for a German multinational company, which is operating in the field of garments, basically. And I am in the field as a trainer for Microsoft Excel and PowerPoint for like 7.5 years. And I have conducted several trainings for my organizations that I have worked previously and for my current organization and several other organizations from Bangladesh. And yes, we will be learning pivot table today from the basic to more advanced level. I will not be able to covering too much in depth. For in depth, you can join my classroom trainings, and also you can check the 4 hours business reporting with pivot table course, which is online with an organization named Thriving Skills, where you have 56 lectures in 9 chapters, and you have quizzes which will test your skills chapter by chapter. And after passing the quizzes, you will be awarded with the certificate of achievement of this course. So I will recommend you for in-depth understanding, you purchase the course and enroll yourself. And for today, I'm with Excel Basement, and thank you especially Mr. Zulfikar for organizing this webinar, and most importantly, thank you very much to the participants who made their time to join the webinar on time and allowing me to offer my expertise and transfer this to the participants. And let me hover through the course outline for today. I will be covering the creating pivot tables, where I will show you how to format the data or creating an awesome pivot table report, and creating a recommended pivot table that is embedded with the Microsoft Excel application. And I will be teaching you the how to pivot a pivot table, and also how to configure in a best manner to create reports through pivot table, and also consolidating data from multiple sources in a single pivot table report. And also I will be teaching you the management of pivot tables after creating a pivot table. And we will also cover up the summarization or data consolidation through pivot table, and where I will be hovering to the options we have, creating subtotals and grand totals in a pivot table, and also changing the data fields, summary operations in a pivot table, then summarizing more than one data field in a pivot table, and also creating a calculated field and using pivot table data in a formula. And I will be also covering the conditional formatting options in a pivot table to present the pivot table within your team or in front of your boss in a very awesome way. So how can we do this? We will be learning out of this webinar. So let me start with the first segment of the webinar, which is creating a pivot table. I guess many of you know already how to create a pivot table, but it is very important to understand how to create a database first. So I have a range of information here. So as you can understand, the range is basically the collection of cells um, in Excel language. And to have a better outcome from this data, we need to convert this to a table. So what we need to do, what is the basic of converting a range to a table is, from a range, if you add data to the very bottom of your range, it will not automatically update. However, if you convert this to a table, the whole data source will be automatically taken by your created pivot table. So I will show you how can we do this. So basically, we will use this database for rest of the course, rest of the webinar. Uh, so uh, you will have a better business case for your application to your organization when you will be practically working with pivot table. And first of all, as I said, I need to convert this to a table. So to convert this to a table, first uh, set your cursor to any of the cell in your range and press Ctrl T from the keyboard. And as you can see, there is a dialog box named Create Table, and it has rightly identified the whole range from A1 to E49. As you can see, it's up to E49. It has identified correctly. Now, if I press OK, it will convert this to a table. And there, I will share you a pro tips, what you can do extra with the table. Say, for instance, you want to create a total of this revenue. So just go to the design tab, which is newly created with the table I have just created now. So just put a tick on total row, and you will have the total of this revenue column. And not only this, if you go to mark the total cell, you have range of options where you can put this to average. You can count the entries. You can have the maximum number in this table. You can have the minimum numbers, and you can do a lot more. So this was a pro tip from my side. And now we will see how can we create a basic pivot table out of this table. To create a pivot table, we will go to Insert and press on the pivot table from the ribbon. As you can see, there is a Create Pivot Table dialog box where the Excel is suggesting that what I will be taking as a data source. So it is rightly marked that I have a table, and the table name is table 2, and it also asking for the option where should I create my pivot table. So there are two options available. I can create in a new worksheet, and also I can create a pivot table in the existing worksheet. But I would prefer to create in a new worksheet, what I usually do. So I just created a pivot table, which is currently blank. So to create a pivot table, we have to provide them with the options how I want to see my pivot table. So first of all, I want to see my revenue, for instance. So it shows the sum of revenue, but it's in total, right? It won't create a meaningful business report for me or for my organization. So what I need to do is I need to add more columns and rows that would create more meaning to my pivot report. So what I do is I will put year to the rows, and I also put the flight types in the columns. So I now can understand that I have data available for the year 2017 and 2018 for my two flight types. One is business class and economic class, and corresponding revenue is given in the pivot table report. So that is how you can create a basic pivot table, and you will be able to play with it. So that covers my formatting data for using a pivot table and creating a pivot table basically. So I will show the next option, which is creating a recommended pivot table. So I have created a basic pivot table here, and now I will show you, even if you don't know anything about creating a pivot table, Excel will suggest you how can you show your information rightly to a pivot table. So um, what I will do is I will click on the recommended pivot tables in the insert option. As you can see, there is a new dialog box came up with a range of options for creating pivot tables, where you can see that the data is segregated by quarter. There are 4 quarterly data available for all my flight types. And I can also show by month, by year, and I can also show by flight types and with year. And I also show the total revenue by quarter, and there are many more options available. So if I select one, maybe I want to show my yearly data month by month. So I select this and I press OK. You see, a very easy pivot table report has been created just now uh, for your presentation. So that is very easy for creating a pivot table using the recommended pivot table options from your insert ribbon. So that covers the creating recommended pivot table. Now, since we have created a pivot table, now how we can, pivot a pivot table. Pivot a pivot table means that basically configuring the pivot table in a way that create more value, that create more decision-making data for your pivot report and presentation. So I will go back to my basic pivot table report. So I will play with the field settings a little bit for your understanding of pivoting the pivot table. So as you can see that I have created only for the years and the flight types. Now I will shuffle the information. Very easy to do this. I will just drag the flight type under year, so that we have the flight types over here, so you can understand in which year your which flight type makes what amount of revenue. Then if I again move the flight type to there and add more detail to my report, if I want to understand what are the monthly revenue amount by my different types of flight classes, that I can understand easily. And if I want to show it by quarter, I can easily remove the month options, drag it and leave it to the field settings area, and drag my quarter to row options. I can easily play with the different options available to show the report from different angles and different dimensions. And there I want to share pro tips for you guys, that sometimes you need to defer the update you are having in a pivot table. So how can you do this? If you can see in the desktop that there is an option named Defer Layout Update. So I will just click it now to see what does it do. So what I will do is I will move the quarter options out of here. You see, there is no change in the data structure or the report structure. And now I will move the month options again under year to the row segment, and there is still no change. So Excel in the pivot table area will defer the update once you select this option and leave it to you. Whenever you click the update options, it will only then update your information. Let us click this update options, and you see that it creates the update after you press the update option. So you will get to know that where and when you need to apply this. But for the time being, I will unmark the defer layout update options, and again I will move the month options out of here and put the quarter options back again, and the report is ready for presentations to the board. So that is how we can pivot the pivot tables, and we can create meaning to the reports and play with the different options pivot table have. So there is another option or there is another area I want to cover, is configuring the pivot table. And this is very handy for you to present directly from the Excel file. So for this I will go directly to the newly created options when I created a pivot table. So there are two options created when I create a pivot table. As you can see that these are pivot table tools. One is Analyze, which gives a range of analyzing options of pivot table. And also there is an option named Design, where I can put different designs to my pivot table. And for as a tip, uh, although it's not in my agenda, I can show you, if you hover to different styling options, you can set different presentation of your pivot table. So so coming back to the agenda, I will now show you how we can configure the pivot table. So these are the three configuration options available for pivot tables. One is field list, one is buttons, and one is field headers. So there are sometimes you want to add like you want to create a dashboard type of feeling with your pivot table. So how you can do this? let me focus on the pivot table fields. Okay, so first of all, I will show you how can you vanish this pivot table fields. You don't want this to show up when you are presenting, so you just click on the field list and it will disappear from the screen. And again, if you click on this, it will come up. And if I move over it, you can see that there are four-way array created when I hover over the pivot table fields option. So basically, it gives me an edge to move it out of here and move wherever I want it. You see, it gives a feeling of you are as if you are managing a dashboard, right? So you can pull it and you can have a different view of it how you want, and it's pretty flexible, you know. So it's basically the term called docking. So you can pull these options out of its basic area, and you can still play with it. Yeah, definitely, like as before. And yeah, and if you want to leave it where it was, you can just drag it back again and you fit it to its basic place. So you can play with it. And sometimes when you are creating a report, you don't want these extra levels available in your pivot table, right? That may create odd looks to your presentation of the pivot table sometimes. So how to remove this or how to get rid of this? Basically, just click on the field headers options and it will automatically remove from your pivot table to create a clean pivot table and having the information relevant to your pivot table only. So we have the title of the pivot table as sum of revenue. I can easily understand these are yearly and monthly figures, and I can also understand these are the different classes of flight we have in our business. So this is pretty easy, right? Um, so that is how you can configure your pivot table in a very different dimension. So next item is consolidating data from multiple sources. So first of all, I would like to share pro tips here. So my tip would be, as you can see, there are identically marked or color-coded worksheets available in my workbook. So these have the revenue data from 4 different years. And what is the difference? The difference is these flights, the current worksheet flights are booked over mobile. These are booked over online or web bookings, and these are booked by phones. So what are the similarities between these 3 worksheets are these information are identically sized. That means the number of cells available in this table or range is identical in every worksheet. So that is the prime thing you need to consider when you create a pivot table from multiple sources. Okay, so now I will create a pivot table out of these 3 worksheets. So what I need to do is I will press my cursor over a specific cells wherever I want to between the range. So within the range, so create a pivot table or put a pivot table wizard visible in my window. I will put Alt D P. So pressing again Alt D P. Okay, and then this will bring this pivot table wizard visible to your screen. There you can see there are Excel is asking questions to me that where is the data that you want to analyze. So is it Microsoft Excel list or database, or in any external data source, or multiple consolidation ranges, another pivot table report or pivot chart report. So I have multiple consolidation ranges available, and um, I have what kind of report do you want to create, right? I want to create a pivot table, so I will put this marked, and I will move to next, and um, it again asks that how many page fields do you want. So create a single page field for me. This is the basic options that pivot table have, but I prefer to create a page
Rupam, there
field
is one
by
question if
myself.
you can answer it.
Yeah, definitely.
Ashraf is asking that from where you can open the pivot table wizard.
Yeah, so I have mentioned this at first, so I will again do it for you. So leave your cursor in one of the cells within the range, and press from your keyboard first Alt, then pressing the keep the Alt pressed, press on D and leave it, then press P. That means Alt plus D, then P. I think I'm clear now.
Thank you.
Is You're welcome. Then I will uh, mark the option multiple consolidation ranges because I have multiple ranges available, and I will mark the pivot table as a report.
Sir,
Then I
just one. It's D stand for Denmark and P stand for
Yes,
Pakistan.
yeah, definitely you are correct. Spot on.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes. So if all of us in the same page, I can move forward with the next option. Then, as I said, I will prefer to select the second option, which is I will create the page fields by myself. Then I will press next, and it gives another dialog box where Excel is asking for the range that I want to consolidate. Okay, then as I said, I have three different worksheets that is identically sized available with me, and I will now select these identical three worksheets for my data consolidation and pivot report. So for selecting, I will press these option, and I will select my first range here, that is from B3 to F7, and I press enter for my keyboard, and then add it, and then I will select my second worksheet, that is web bookings. I'll select it again and press enter and add it again, and I will select my last one. Uh, did you guys recognize that I have different cell numbers? Although I have different cell numbers, but I have these worksheets identically sized. And then I will keep how many page fills do you want? Then I will leave it to 0 because I don't need any further filters available to my pivot table. Then I will press next, and this is basic. The Excel is basically asking where I want to create the pivot table, in the new worksheet or existing worksheet. I would prefer it to create in the new worksheet, and I will press finish now, and my pivot table report is ready, consolidating 3 different worksheets, and the data is here with you, all prepared, and now you can, you know, have a look with it and get the proper information that you need for your further presentation and reports. So that's basically ends consolidating data from multiple sources. Then we have managing pivot tables. So basically, I will move to my basic pivot table that I have created, and eventually turn to a proper report. Then now we will understand how can we manage the pivot report. So managing pivot reports or pivot tables covers 3 things. One is moving the whole pivot table. I mean, copying the pivot table, the whole pivot table, and paste it in a new worksheet, and also clearing the whole pivot table out of your worksheet, and also you know, deleting the whole pivot table out of your worksheet. So I will start with copying the whole pivot table. So that will recommends to move to the pivot table options, analyze. So I will basically go to the select option from the analyzed contextual tab, and I will select the entire pivot table. So now you have all whole of the pivot table in your grip. You just need to press Control C to copy the whole pivot table, and I now want to paste it in a new worksheet. I will create a new worksheet pressing Control plus N, and it will create a new worksheet, and I will paste it now by pressing Control plus V, and you see your pivot table is moved to a new worksheet with all of its options available for you, so that you may need to uh, copy and paste from a workbook that may have a very good amount of pivot tables available within the workbook, and you need to copy your specific pivot table out of this workbook and paste it to your main reporting workbook probably. So that is how you can do it. So I will close it, and now I will keep the pivot table selected to show you the next option, that is deleting a pivot table. So simply you keep the pivot table selected as we are doing it now, and simply press delete from your keyboard, and it will delete your pivot table out of this worksheet with all of its options. And another thing that I mentioned, that how to clear the pivot table at a go. Uh, uh, that means that we have organized this pivot table in a very well manner, but now we want to clear all the options and left all the options unselected. So how can we do this? We will again go to the Analyze Contextual tab and press the Clear option and press Clear All. This will leave your pivot table blank, but leave the options available for you to reorganize and create a beautiful report again. So I will come back to my original thing, and let me hover to, oh yeah, congratulations, we have covered the first part, which is creating a pivot table with all of the topics that we have planned for. Now we will move to summarizing a pivot table data. How can we summarize our pivot table data? So for the ease of understanding and to save time, I have created a pivot table from my data. So now if we understand that the first option, which is managing the subtotal and grand total, how can we do this? So as you can see, my current pivot table has subtotals, yearly subtotals, right? And at the end of the pivot table, we have the grand total available, summing up all the revenue of different years. So to play with this grand total and subtotals, we have beautiful Excel options that is so effective that we can find in the Design Contextual tab. And as you can see, this is the subtotal option available in the Design Contextual tab and grand total option available. So we will first see how the subtotal options work. So if we press on the down arrow, we will see that we have do not show subtotal option. We have options show all subtotals at bottom of group, and we have another option show all subtotals at top of group. So uh, basically, I don't know what you prefer, but I prefer to have my subtotal in the bottom of the table. So after hovering to my monthly information, I can see the total in the bottom. So let's do it. So I will select show all subtotals in the bottom. See, it is very fast, and it also served my purpose of viewing the pivot table in my way. And if we want to exclude the subtotals that we only want grand totals to be shown, we will select remove the subtotals and it will only show the grand total for you. So let me back to the original form. That is how you can play with the subtotals. And now we will play with some with the grand totals. So there are 4 different options. You can show the grand total of you can off the grand total for your rows and columns. You can on for the row and columns. You can on for rows only, and you can on for columns only. So let us play with some options. So I will omit the grand total for columns only. That means for this area, the subtotals will be off, right? So I select it, and as you can see that the presentation of your pivot table is changed, and we are no longer having the column level grand totals available. Again, if you go back and select on for columns only, sorry, on for rows and columns, it will again appear for you. And similar way, you can select it for the rows and it will vanish. So these are the options available in Excel for playing with the subtotals and grand totals, how you want to present your pivot table to your boss and your colleagues. And now we will move to the next option, that is changing the data field summary option. It is very crucial and a very useful tool used in Excel. So I will go to my pre-selected or pre-created pivot table for ease of learning and to save time. And yeah, I will again move to the Analyze Contextual tab, and you have an option here, that is Fill Settings. So keeping the cursor selected in one of your pivot table cells, press on Fill Settings. There you can see that we have different options. Summarize values by, that means we can create summary by summing of the revenue figures. We can create average, we can identify the maximum and minimum, we can product, that is basically multiplying the figures, and there are different options available. So I will now want to see the average revenue per year for my flight types. So I will select the average and click OK. You see the average is shown up in the pivot table, and you can now see that in 2017 we have an average revenue for business class as 7,19,186. So similar goes with other years and other flight options. So now we want to change it. We will come back to sum, and we want to analyze this in a different way. So I want to show the value, how the value will show up uh, uh, in the pivot table. So there are several options available. The value may show up as a percentage of grand total. That means the yearly figures by flight type will be shown up as a percentage of the grand total we have. And we have different other options. Another useful option is if we can see the running total in. So for easy calculation or easy reporting, I will show you the percentage of grand total. So the basic field will not be available here. So uh, keep the percentage of total selected. I will press OK now, and it will show up that in 2017 we have 49% of revenue, and 2018 50%, but for business class in 2017 it was 24.31%, and for economic class it was 25.1%. So it basically shows up the uh, thing we need, and we can be able to play with different field setting options, which one is effective for me. Now I will move to my third topic, that is summarizing more than one data field. So how can we summarize more than one data field? So we have a basic pivot table here. This is a very nice report, but what I want to share is this. I have an additional information here is bookings, right? So I will bring this up in the pivot table as well. So I will change the data source, and I will check whether it was correct. Yes, it is correct, and I will bring the bookings figures as well. So the pivot table is now broadened, and we a sum of revenue for different flight classes and sum of bookings as well. But what I need to see side by side is I have the sum of revenue figures. Now I want to create another field here, which will show up that how much the sum of revenue in terms of percentage. Okay, so I will basically pull the revenue options again under this revenue value. So Excel has created another revenue field beside my original one, and now I will play with this information by selecting the value, selecting the field settings from the Analyze Contextual tab. I will press on this, and now I want to uh, show the sum of revenue as the percentage of grand total, right? So I will press OK, and it will show up that how much and what is the percentage per month uh, per flight options available. And that is how you can easily work with more than one. You need to calculate um, can everyone hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay, great. So we will now, sorry,
We hear you.
can I be heard?
Yes,
Your voice is lacking.
Said your last part.
I can't hear you, sir.
I can't hear.
Hello.
I think the voice has gone. Can you please check? We cannot hear you.
2 minutes. Rupam will get back to you. Kindly wait for the 2 minutes. Thank you.
I think the audio is missing.
So I can't hear you because I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Sir.
The voice is clear.
Yes, now it's
Still
okay.
not.
You can continue.
Yeah. Okay. So I just named the
Your voice is lacking.
calculated field that will be created. Now I want to write the formula. So to write the formula, that is revenue per booking, I will first select the revenue, add it to my formula, and to divide it with the bookings, I need to put a backslash. Then again select the bookings. That will create a field for me. Then I will select this insert field option. Oh, sorry. I will select this add option, and as you can see that revenue per booking options is been created, and I will press OK now. And as you can see that there is a sum of revenue per booking, and also by month the information is created for my pivot report. So that is how we can create a pivot report and calculation field in the pivot report. So now I will move to my next topic, that is using a pivot table data in a formula. So when we use a formula or refer to a pivot table, option is been created, or the formula is having a get pivot data as a function. So basically how we can do it, as you can see, I'm trying to pull the information from the pivot table for the month of October into 2017. What was the revenue of economic class flight? So basically I press equal sign to create the formula, and I go to 2017 field, and I mark the October, and I mark the cell economic class, and I put my cursor there, and the formula is automatically created. So what is the beauty of it? If I go back to the pivot table, if I reorient my pivot table or restructure pivot table, leaving the options active, it won't create formula to distract. So I will move the month here, and I will add here, and I will put the flight type probably under here. So as you can see, I have done a mess with the data. Sorry, to the flight. So I have done a mess with my data. So as you can see, the formula is still there. It's still selecting the information that I mentioned for 2017 economic. So the formula is there. If I get back to my original version, it was 795,562. But if you remove fill, Excel cannot refer to the information. So you can still create a meaningful formula referring to your pivot table, but be cautious. Change the structure, but leave the proper information for the formula to extract the right information from your pivot table. So that will basically end up my second topic. Now I will move to the conditional formatting area. So I have pre-created a pivot table for you. So how can we apply conditional formatting? Conditional formatting is a very useful way to presenting your information in Excel. So to create a basic conditional formatting, that is my first topic, which is highlight cells by applying a rule. So I will go to conditional formatting first, but prior to this I have to select one of the cells in my pivot table and select the conditional formatting. Then I will go to new rule, and I will go to format only cells that contain, and I will select the option cell value is greater than probably 5 lakhs, and I want to highlight this with green mark, and then press OK, and then press OK. You can see the conditional formatting is only applied to, sorry, yeah, the conditional formatting is only applied to the current cell, but it's not, since it's not beyond 5 lakhs, it's not highlighted. So to get rid of this, we should select the format painter option, and we can, leave it here and here. But this is not the proper options for visualizing your data through conditional formatting. We should have another option, that is automatic option comes over. But I think my Excel is malfunctioning. Let me try it again, because there should be an automatic option available for me when I apply the conditional formatting here. So I will press the highlighting cell rules, then go to greater than, highlight, then I will put say for instance green fill, then press OK. Okay, now this option comes. Then I will I have marked this cell, so the conditional formatting only applied to these cells only. If we want to rightly apply the conditional formatting, I need to select one of these options. So all cells showing sum of revenue values will not give me the correct result. If I select this one, you see that what happens. It selected the grand total and also the subtotals, but this is not my objective. I want to select only the monthly figures, not the grand totals or subtotals. So what I will do is, I will again go to the option and select all cells showing sum of revenue values for month and flight type. So I will now going to press this, and as you can see that the figures that are beyond 5 lakhs are highlighted correctly, excluding the subtotals and grand totals. That how you can apply conditional formatting effectively in your pivot table to present and rightly visualize your data. And Zulfikar, we have 15 more minutes, because I can see that we have only 1 minute.
Sure, you can go ahead. We have more time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Then we have another topic, that is highlighting the top or bottom values in a pivot table. So how we can do this? I have pre-created pivot table here. So I have the information of two different years available, and according to flight types and months. So I want to show the top 10 and the bottom 10 values. within this pivot table. So how can we do that? Again, we need to go to the conditional formatting option, and there we have top or bottom rules. So to display the top 10 items, I will select the top 10 items, and you can see that I can change the number. You can put this here top 20, you can put this top 5, whichever you want, but I will show top 10, and this should be marked in let's say green. Then I will press OK. So the conditional formatting again only apply to the cells I have pre-selected. So to apply to the whole pivot table, I will again go to this option and then click third option, that is correct. So if you hover over the pivot table, you will be able to see that top 10 items are rightly marked in the pivot table in green. In similar fashion, we will be able to select the bottom 10. So again, I will go to the top and bottom option, and I will select the bottom 10 items option. And again, you can play with this number. I will leave it as 10, and I want to mark it in light red fill. Okay, then I will again click OK, and again it's applied to the pre-selected cell, and for showing it up in the whole pivot table, I will select the third option. Let's see whether it worked or not. Yes, congratulations, you have perfectly done this of selecting the top 10 and bottom 10 items in your pivot table. So this topic is finished, and I will now move to my title page again to show what is left. Again, there is a tip for you that might not be the pro tip, but that is a tip. You can see that I have lots of worksheets available here. So how can I quickly move to my title page? There is a question. So if my title page is in the right side of the workbook, or I need to click, I need to hold my cursor over this right arrow and press the press the left mouse button, and you can see all my worksheets are showing up here. So if I select the title page or double click on it, I will be able to easily move to my title page or the required worksheet I want. So my second topic would be last topic for this day would be how to format cells using data bars, color scales, and icon sets. So I will again quickly move to my formatting options, that is a pre-created pivot table, and again I will move to conditional formatting. Now I want to use a data bar. So there are two different options available while using conditional formatting of data bars. There are gradient fill and solid fills. For gradient fills, I won't prefer you to use because the display sometimes may distract you and may not give you the right interpretation. So what I would select you to use the solid fill that would give you the proper interpretation of your data. So again, it's been applied to the pre-selected cell, and I will then select the third option, and you can see it's beautiful and it's easy and it's create meaning to your report. So the figures, those are big, are fully filled with green color, and those have small figures are less filled and correctly shown up. So you can interpret your information by only seeing the data bars in your pivot table. So I will.
Hello. Excuse me.
Hello.
Yes, sir, it is used for lowest to largest value gradient fill color.
Pardon. Can you repeat?
This cell help will. Hello.
Hello. Yeah, I'm listening. Hello.
Sorry, sir. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. Now I will work with the color scales. So basically, many of us have seen the heat map, right? So color scales is basically creating a heat map in your pivot table. So how can we will be doing this? I will use this color scales here. So basically it includes the green, white and red color. I prefer this because it creates more meaning, and it only have 3 color scales here. So I will select this, and again it's been applied to the pre-selected cell, and I will then move to the all cells showing some revenue values for month and flight type, and I select this, and your heat map is ready, and you can easily interpret those values who have big figures are marked in green, those have average figures are light green, those are below average in white, and those have a very less value are marked in red. So you have just generated a map for your pivot table presentation. And now I will move to my last topic of the day, that is very amazing and gives you clear interpretation of your data, which is icon sets. So I will move to my data here, and as you can see, there is a basic data of class of flight, and we have monthly information here, and I want to you know see the value. Those are less, those are average, and those are big in numbers. So I will simply go to the conditional formatting option and select the icon sets here, and I basically prefer to use the 3 scale. So I will select this option, that is green, amber and red, and selected this, and again it's shown in the pre-selected cells. And again I if I go to, sorry, again I go to the option, then I will go to the third option, that is right, and it's been applied to the whole pivot table. So you can see that those numbers the numbers which are marked in green, you can easily understand, and those are average or in between the big numbers and the small numbers are highlighted in amber or yellow, and those who have figures less than the average are marked in red. So thank you very much. I have taken 10 minutes more than my usual schedule. Thanks for your patient listening, and I believe you have now understand that how can you create a pivot table, how can you create a summary, how can you play with your pivot table options, and how can you calculate and even create a pivot formula out of your pivot table, and you can have the information that is ready for your pivot report, and what is effective and not effective for your report, and also how can you present through your Excel file. And I
If you are
keep
available
the floor
for question
open
and
for your
answers.
question. Yeah.
Okay. So one by one, please ask. Unmute yourself and one by one ask, please.
Okay, sir. My question is.
Paul,
My
thank you
question
very
is.
much for
You're,
the wonderful session.
you're welcome.
I'm using Excel for the past 23 years, but the options which I have seen today are very new to me. First of all, it's very much thankful. Secondly, my question
Thank you
is,
very much.
can we? Are you doing the advanced courses also on the Excel?
Yeah, I'm doing the advanced courses as well. It is not online yet. I'm working on it, but I do my classroom, sessions with different organizations in Bangladesh. And also, I have group office in Germany, and I have done this for my German colleagues as well, but not in Pakistan or in any other countries as of now. If Zulfikar invites me, I'll be happy to do this. And I'm sure Zulfikar is doing same advanced courses in Pakistan. Is it?
Yes, very right. Very true.
Yes.
And then
Yes.
Ashraf, you can ask your question now.
Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum, sir. Sir, my question is: you showed us a powered wizard, pivot wizard, right?
Yeah. For
Can we,
connecting multiple worksheets.
yeah, can we use dynamic ranges with it? Because sometimes we have a huge bulk of data. It cannot be possible to use tables in it. So can we use dynamic ranges in it? It will be convenient if it is possible, right?
Yes. For this particular option, creating, by creating a wizard, the data sets or the range or the table we are talking about should be identically sized. This is the primary option. So if you make it like dynamic, you need to have your tables or your ranges identically sized. Did you get what I meant?
You meant I have to look for the data as vertical and horizontal. It should be same, right? Uh,
Yes, it should be same.
it won't happen if my data is not is same in any one side. If
Yes.
my data is exceeding rows, that it work?
Um, um, Again, I'm mentioning this. If you can see three of my worksheets, it has
Mhm.
like the same size, same rectangular size, same number of cells in here. So if you have, dynamic ranges, you should have this for other worksheets as well. So that the total size matches in each worksheet. So if you can meet this criteria, it will work fine. Otherwise, it won't work.
Okay, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello?
I have a
Yeah,
Yes,
question
sir.
Muslim.
about the pivot table.
I can hear two sounds.
Just a minute. Let me ask the question first. I have a question. If we don't want to use an Excel table to create a pivot table, is there any other way to make it automated with the new data, with the upcoming new data in the below table?
So you are asking that I have created the pivot table by using a table, but if I have created another table, so will I be able to connect my pivot table to the newly created table or a range right?
Yeah,
Am I
yeah,
getting?
sure.
Okay. So yes, the answer is definitely yes. So if I show you practically that this is my basic pivot table. So the data source is, if we can show this from the Analyze Contextual tab, if you mark this Change Data Source option and select the Change Data Source option from there, you will be able to see that which table or which range I have selected for my pivot table. So if you want to change it, you need to again select these options, or you can first remove it. So your current table is unmarked, and you can select your new data fill. For instance, I
No,
can
no, no, no. Just a minute. Let me repeat my question. Actually, I
yes,
want to know, as you have created an Excel table for your database
yep,
and then created a pivot table from this
yes,
database. Yeah, right.
yes,
But
yes.
I have a question about that. If we don't want to use the database to change it with the pivot table, Excel table,
Mhm.
we don't want to change the database in Excel table and then create a pivot table. So what if we don't want to change it? Just a minute. So will it
Okay.
will it be possible to update new data and automatically with the in the created pivot table?
Okay. So if I understand it correctly, that you have a separate worksheet, and the pivot table is not available in your worksheet, but still you want to link your pivot table to your another worksheet, right? Is this your question?
Mm, yeah.
Or I can sense you are still maybe confused, or we may have a miscommunication or misunderstanding. Uh, Rahim, can you just help us?
Um, I guess what I have understood so far is that Usman does not want to utilize the table utility. He wants to create a pivot table from a normal range. And later on, if the data increases, that he want to update the pivot tables. So is it possible
Okay.
that in the normal ranges, when the data appends, so the pivots refreshes? This is what I guess Usman is saying. And another way is that definitely you can ask questions later on at the end of the webinar. I will connect you with the Rupam on his social medias and emails so that he can give you a detailed answer to that.
Yes.
But Rupam, have you understood?
Yes, I have understood the question,
Okay,
Yeah,
and
okay,
that's the question. That's my question. Actually, thank you, Rahim bhai.
and welcome.
so basically, it's not possible. We create a table for create dynamic ranges. So it is not possible, first of all. And even if you want to connect your pivot table and update it when your range has a new information, um, to go to the Analyze Contextual tab from your pivot table, and again select the Change Data Source, and you have to mark it up to the bottom. Then only it will update, but
Right.
automatically
Okay.
it's not possible.
Yeah. Right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So thank you so
So
much, Mehnaz Rupam, for your all your support, for your time and knowledge for the Excel community, and I hope that the participants today have explored the very new features. Basically, they were using the pivot tables previously as well, but your webinar is very efficient and a lot of topics you discovered and showed us in a very good way. and an average pace. Thank you so much again.
You're welcome. And I will also thank the participants who have been very patient listening to me. And I definitely feel that they have benefited, although it was um, uh, a very bit of pivot table, what pivot table offers. But you can still enroll or purchase this course that is available, and you can get a 4-hour session, and it's highly advanced. Thank you.
And inshallah, I hope to see you in Pakistan very soon.
Inshallah, inshallah. Let us be safe from corona, and again, if corona help us to recover from this phase, we will definitely meet, inshallah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Take care. Assalamu alaikum.